Conversation in Blood is a 2017 novel by Paul S. Kemp, and it is book 3 of 3 in the Egil and Nix series. This is a sword and sorcery novel. For if you have not read the other ones, you technically don't have to start with the first novel or the second novel. You could start here. I wouldn't really recommend it. I think, honestly, my favorite's probably the second one as of right now, too. But you could start here. This one actually starts in medias res, which is pretty typical of the sword and sorcery genre. The duo are getting their butts whooped by some monster. It has several mouths. They have a third friend, Jaime. Maybe he can save them. At least that's the thought. It's actually awfully confusing, and I kind of forgot that Jaime was a character from the first book because he doesn't really show up in the second book. Nix feels like a failure after leaving Rose in a mirror with the mind mage Ortal in the Dead Mire. Egil has been drinking even more. Nix watches over the fevered prostitute Kier, and he thinks about sleeping with her if she'd let him. This monster gets some decent page time, and while horrifying, it's actually kind of almost pitiable as a monster, and we do figure out its a little bit of its origin, but not a ton. Still rather mysterious by the end of the story. The story takes some time actually getting going. There is an almost slow, cozy aspect at the start as they're in their little tavern, whorehouse they run. Though there are hints of the greater plot, they're very subtle ones to begin. And also, as before, Nix is really the main character, but Egil is almost always present, which is kind of like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, which this is largely inspired off of, as the Mouser is often the character we get the point of view from, but Fafhrd is always present. That's not always the case, but it is the case sometimes. But the duo do hope for adventure to get them out of their rut, as they seem to be in, and it does come, of course, as this is a novel, and not, just a novel of nothing happening. Once the acceleration starts, it escalates pretty quickly, and so this is, it's in a way, this is actually the fastest paced novel, actually, I think. Once it starts slow, but besides, after that, it's pretty fast paced. There's lots of fake curses, but they're pretty close to ours, like there's Fack and Shite, which I guess Shite might be one in reality, but not really. Anyways, this is contrasted with big words the rather poor characters come across, particularly the consternation of Nix, right, who doesn't know a word, and he's like, what the heck does that mean, right? And if I didn't know it already from the Erebus Kale books that Paul S. Kemp wrote for the Forgotten Realms, then this would confirm Kemp's like of the word palimpsest, as it just shows up more than your typical fantasy series. But the cast of characters are good. We have Tesha, Kerfallen, Mama Bird, Kazmarek, and some interesting cosmological dealings of Ebenor, actually, which is pretty interesting, this is that momentary god that Egil is a priest of, and he's like the only priest of the god. It also gets into relativity and other things that I was not expecting, how death is messed with, and this seems inconsistent, I'd say, but, whatever. Durfallen itself is a setting, the heroes walking the streets. It's pretty much, the Lankamar mixed with Selgant, maybe a little bit of a sanctuary from Thieves' World. But again, like I said, you could start here. There's no real reason not to read books 1 and 2, though, even though those are not the beginning of the adventures of Egil and Nix. They're already friends at that point. It is chronologically the series, right? So the first one is, of course, The Hammer and the Blade, and the second one is A Discourse in Steel. So anyways, I'm a big fan of these. I would actually really enjoy if Kemp wrote more of these. I don't know why he hasn't. I don't know if he will. I'm not really sure, but I would enjoy more of these. I definitely enjoy sword and sorcery in general, and these don't seem to be very popular among sword and sorcery fans, or really any other fantasy fans for that matter. But I'm a big fan of Paul S. Kemp. Big fan of his Erebus Kale stuff, and honestly, after reading these, I'm a fan of Egil and Nix too. Anyways, Liam from Liam's Lyceum. I'll catch you next time.